Google certified trainers and a Google certified teacher. So we're really happy that he's here with us today to talk to us about how we can use Google Apps for digital storytelling projects. So Vinnie, are you there?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and pass the presenter ball over to you.
All right, well, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank all of you who have taken time out of your day to and participate in this webinar. Know that this is a very busy time of the year, and so good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you happen to reside. And I hope that spring is arriving, if not at your area, or will be arriving soon. I do know that there are a lot of schools that are on spring break. And get a second as I'm getting ready to and take the ball. Today we're going to talk about one project in particular, and depending on the amount of time that we have, we're going to talk about a second project, which uses Google Sites to support a collaborative learning environment. But the one that we're going to start off with is to talk about how we can, you all can use Google Sites and other Google tools to support digital storytelling projects. Now, and again, as you can see, as I should finish my introduction, my name is Vinnie Vrotny. I am the Director of Academic Technology at the North Shore Country Day School. The North Country Day School is located north of the city of Chicago, about 18 miles. And I've been at the school for 18 years. This is my 18th season at the school. Now, just to kind of define what we're running out as a digital storytelling project, digital storytelling project typically will have one of three different artifacts which are created at the end of that particular project. The first of which is an audio-only project. This is a little bit more difficult for students to work with because most of them have grown up in this era and age where video is very, very prevalent. And so someone who's a little bit older, such as myself, who did grow up on radio and radio commentary, this is a little bit of a change. Again, the audio is digitally recorded, edited, mastered, and then shared on out. And we will share components because the two other ways that you can use a digital storytelling project, one which just incorporates still imagery or pictures, JPEGs, which are placed together in a slideshow with a constructed soundtrack as a way to present and to tell that story. And again, that story will have a great beginning, a middle, and an end to that particular story, so that therefore that in the beginning there's a hook, they present their facts and their arguments in the middle, and at the end somehow there's a transfer of passion, emotion, or a call to action. The third digital storytelling project which you can work with does include motion picture. This is a little bit more work in the planning and in the execution of this. This particular project that I'm going to be talking about today is one which we use with our 11th grade students, which are our juniors. Our juniors are required to take a United States history course, whether it be an AP U.S. history course or a United States history course. It was 3 years ago or actually 5 years ago, that we began to incorporate more elements of visual literacy and digital storytelling into our U.S. history course, because these students are ones who don't necessarily work with text as the medium of their choice. These are students who are much more comfortable utilizing imagery and audio, motion picture as a way of conveying and absorbing information, versus our AP U.S. history students who typically will use text as a way to retrieve and get information on it. So here, the key problems that exist when assigning a project as a group project for a digital storytelling project. This would work whether it's a group PowerPoint or it's a group photo, which is what we use. We use PCs, a group photo story, or using iMovie to construct a series of static picture visual images with the soundtrack to work within. We consciously do group projects because we like the interplay and the collaboration that we can build from that, as well as it makes the task a little bit simpler based upon the time frame for our U.S. history students. So the problems that we've run into over the years is in working with the group project is that one student is the one who typically creates the content. Now, at some point in time in all of these projects, there's to be one computer which is used for the final edits and for the final construction at this particular point. There's not a good collaborative editing tool that we've found that works in the way that we want, that will produce a product that is good enough. But in all of the pre-production work, we want students to begin to collaborate, and we want to be able to document and assess who's contributed what. Because a number of you who may have done projects such as these will note that typically there's one student who does 80 to 85% of the work. The second item that we have, and the second issue and obstacle we have, is that the picture and audio files are typically kept on that one computer. And we have a rule of thumb that we always like to joke with the kids, but we found over the years to be true that the likelihood of a flash drive failure, a drive failure, some kind of a glitch increases exponentially as the due date approaches. And so if the students are working off of one student's computer, and that computer or that student is sick and that computer doesn't come into school that day, or if that student's computer crashes or they lose some of the imagery and things, then it really puts the students at a disadvantage with the project. So we wanted to develop something that would allow a lot of the pre-production work to occur in a way so that students could collaborate very easily and quickly on the various different projects. The third piece is that class time and how you utilize class time. Previously, it was difficult to have the students be able to begin to collaborate because they're working on one system, or there's one main computer, or in the case that there was a network file server that we were able to create group folders for, and so we're able to save their work into their shared collaborative folder. They weren't able to access that when they were off campus. And so it really limited the ability time-wise as well as physical space-wise that students could collaborate. So if they went home, they found the particular sets of images and things, they would have to consciously begin to bring those images on in, either via a flash drive or burning a CD or attaching them as email attachments to partners or to themselves, and then remember to download those and hope that there was no corruption in those files as they went ahead and sent those. Third and last obstacle that we have is that students worked with different operating systems. Some of our students had Macintosh computers, some have PCs at home, and some are even running Linux. And so the challenge in terms of the way that file decompression is done, especially on the Macs and the PCs, that oftentimes would cause for problems in that final editing, and again that spike up as we got exponentially closer to the end product. Google Apps for Education helped us in terms of managing this particular project, and we will get in to see the project. I just want to give you the context and the background to tell you about what's going on. This way is through the use of Google Docs, and this is something which has occurred with the addition of the online storage in Google Docs since last winter. Students now have the ability to upload up to 1 gigabyte worth of files from their computer on into their shared space or on into the cloud. Once the items are shared into the cloud, and again this 1 gigabyte worth of space, it's very easy for them to share it amongst their teammates, so therefore that they are able to build this. From last year's project in 2000, not 2010 to this year, this was one edition, and our students began to utilize this cloud-based storage rather than the Google Site storage that we'll see in a few minutes as a way to work within there. Items that we require of our students in this particular project is we require them to create a storyboard. Because one of the things that, again, we're wanting to do is we're wanting to build up visual literacy. And so rather than just seeing them, having them begin to go into production, we really want them to think about how they're going to craft their story. The things that you'll see when we talk about the project specifically is that we craft a very specific question that we want the students to answer within this project. And it's through the storyboard that they begin to brainstorm how they're going to answer that question. What's the hook? What's their beginning? How are they going to prove their middle pieces? And how are they going to wrap up and put their conclusion within there? The other aspect which is new as of this previous fall is Google Custom Search. We used to have to do this on outside Google accounts, but now with the addition of the full set of tools within the Google Apps for Education, what we're able to do is we're able to create Google custom search engines for the students to go out and search the imagery. This, we can have them look for creative content-based imagery, as well as using Life Magazine's archive of images to help the students narrow their search down into a very targeted and very specific sets of images. This is very helpful so that therefore students are not spending a significant amount of time finding the information. They're spending the bulk of time in crafting their story and working in their editing within those particular projects. Google Sites is where we've really begun to construct a majority of our work. Within Google Sites, it allows us to organize information and create a website that will provide information for the students so that they understand what the context and what the project is. It gives us the ability to put exemplar projects from years past so that students can take a look and view at their own time without having to take up class time in order to see what are the standards, what is the standard of excellence that they're expected to achieve on this particular project. Google Sites also allows and provides for some online storage. And again, prior to this year's project, last year's project, 2009-2010, this was the only way for students to begin to share files. Within Google Sites, within your Apps for Ed, you have the ability to upload up to a 20 megabyte file, and you have a grand total of 10 gigabytes of storage that you can utilize for your entire school. Now, the project that you'll see, we actually had to clear out a large number of the images that they've created for this because we do use similar templates for other digital storytelling projects. And up until a few weeks ago, you were unable to purchase additional storage for each user or for your school. It has now changed within the last 3 weeks, although it's not changed on sites. It changed on the individual users. And because we're constantly doing large numbers of digital storytelling projects from our kindergarten through our 12th grade, we do want to make sure that we don't run into a file limitation. But this allows students to begin to construct soundtracks and MP3 files and photo files that they're finding and putting them into shared resource so that all of the team members can access those particular files so that therefore if someone's sick, no one they can't continue to work. Additionally, if something happens to the file and in through the 5 years of digital storytelling projects in this particular class, there's always 1 or 2 image files that and again, it's usually within 2 or 3 hours of the deadline. The students have files that go bad, they're unable to render. And so this gives them their resource to go back and re-download that image without having to try to remember where it is. And lastly, within the sharing within the Google Sites, it gives them the ability to tag as well as begin to create their bibliography or their works cited page. This year, moving to sites, we added the ability for the students to use the Google site as a page to begin to share their reflections of their own stories. The aspects of the assignment is that the students need to reflect and write a reflection as to why they chose what they did, what the purpose of their movie was. And previously that was something which was shared from individual teachers, from the students, the group of students, to the teacher. This year, through the sites, we instructed them, and they, for the most part, complied. They actually added their reflections as well as uploaded their movies, so that therefore all of the students in the class could see not only their finished and final project, which made it easier to distribute, and again took less class time for us to then show them. We could point everybody to this as the homework assignment to watch other people's videos to give feedback, as well as read the reflections. And because this project is always evolving and because of the things that we've added, next year, the project in 2011-2012, we're going to be constructing and adding onto the Google site and into their individual pages, so that the students from the other groups, not only will the project creators make reflections, but we're also going to include areas for the other student groups to come in, watch another group's movie, and reflect on the project that they're seeing, what they found, both positive and negative. So that, and we're going to be working some time into the project schedule in order to incorporate that. Items that we're going to talk about, and then we'll take a look at the project. The first of which is Google Video. This is how we had the students upload the final projects. This really helped us significantly in that it allowed us to have a site where the teacher could then go home and grade was online, rather than having to deal with multiple different file formats, flash drives, CDs, all being turned on in. So students were required and to upload their own movie within the Google Apps for Ed Google Video, which we added for this particular project, so that therefore that they could then attach it to their page. The last area within this particular project is that we used Aviary, which is one of the marketplace applications, and this is where the students were able to then come on in to work collaboratively on the audio editing for soundtrack. Previously, we used standalone products such as GarageBand or Audacity to have the students work with that. But now in the use of Aviary, it enabled us to allow student groups to work on this, as well as be able to take the files and work on them from home via the web browser. So this is just the way that we've worked within there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just, I've got one more slide, which is just a recap, which we'll put on up when we have time for questions at the end. And what I want to do is I want to go into the actual project itself and to show what it is. So this is the landing page for this particular Google site. And again, in this particular project, it was the culminating project from a Vietnam study that they had done. And this takes place, and they'll finish up their Vietnam studies right at the beginning of December. So this begins December. All their pre-production work and research begins to go into the project before our winter break. And when students come back after winter break, they're given 2 weeks to work on their project. At the same time in class, we do give them some work times in class, but other times in class, they're moving forward with the next unit of study. So this allows them to kind of build within here. And this is a collaborative project that I've worked on with our U.S. history teacher, Kevin Randolph. And he deserves the equal billing in terms of all of the various different aspects. So, we've put in some basic links in terms of the students, what the assignment is. As you can see, the assignment was to create a 3 to 5 minute film that used still videos, still photos, a music soundtrack, and answers an essential question. Our central question this year is what does Vietnam mean 35 years later, particularly with respect to the situations in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so this was that compelling story. You can see that what the assignments were requiring: the storyboard, a script of the narration, a song list, a 2 to 3 page explanation of the film focusing on the decisions which were made, and then they'll individually provide us feedback. And again, we're getting ready for next year. We also give the timeline for the students, so the students know when works are, when they're able to work, last days to get technical support, and when the project is due within there. We focus in on the process, and we take them through a process which is called tripwise, or trip bases. Trip bases takes them through step by step. So they start with a general idea of their topic. They begin to research and dig and cite the various different things. Through the use of Google Sites, we can come into the edit the page. Within the editing of the page, we can attach various different links. So you'll see that there's a link to a document here which enabled this to access our library databases from home with all of the access codes. Other websites we're able to easily and quickly create links. This is also opened up to the librarian, so the librarian has the ability to add various different elements on into this project as well. In visual images, this is where we now begin to talk a little bit about Creative Commons and what's legal and what's not. Construct the Google custom search engines within here for Google Images. I also want them to really think about what Creative Commons means and what the Creative Commons licensing provides for them within their particular project. And so we just we build this on out by going into the edit page and just typing in various different items that we want to incorporate and to include. So it's fairly easy to build out a project such as this. We then give them instructions and give them links to how to assemble the various different aspects. We use Microsoft Photo Story as the tool that we prefer that they use, although we do not limit them in the tool that they use. So students will use iMovie to construct their still images. It also includes some blank slides. So what we've done is as teachers, we've gone out, given them all of the tools, provided them access to video tutorials so that they can follow up and do a large part of this particular project at home. Again, it's as simple as coming in and editing the page. I'm just going to come here and we'll take this out. We can do URL link. If we wanted to add a new URL link, height that text within our Google site, click in our toolbar on link button, and here you get to going to an existing page within the site, a web address. So we would click on a web address, and this is where we would type the address that we would like for that particular item to go to. One other of Google Sites is that it's also very easy to add images and videos in, especially YouTube videos. And this is particularly nice if your school has not blocked YouTube, because you can get some really wonderful tutorials from the various different projects. So while you're in this edit mode, you can come into the insert, and you'll see you have the ability in a Google site to insert content of many different types. You can bring in an image, so that if you want to bring a picture on into the page, you can go ahead. You can insert a new web link, a table of contents, a horizontal line. You can add calendars into the example, and that's the last example that I'll show. You can add other Google Docs that you've created, whether they be slideshows, whether they be present spreadsheets, whether they be Google Docs, Google Maps, and again, with the addition and incorporation of Google Maps into the Apps for Ed suite. You have the ability to do that. You can bring photos, forms, and you can bring in videos. So if you know of a particular video that you'd like to bring on in, you can go ahead and click on Google Video. You already have found it by going to YouTube. You can paste the URL to this, and this will now incorporate and include a Google video into this, as well as a YouTube video, which you can bring on in. I'm going to click on Cancel. I'm going to erase my URL link because I really don't want to keep that at this particular point, but give the capability of doing this, and I'm now going to go ahead and save the page. The last piece that we go through is soundtrack. Again, they've gotten significantly easier. Things that students do like to use is they do like to use some stock standard music clips. One of the problems that we were having is getting their movie or their music from their iPods, because Apple does do a different file format than a lot of the digital storytelling pieces of software will allow, although with the area we eliminate that particular choice, as well as how to access royalty-free music. This was a new addition. Up in the sidebar in our table of contents, we'll see that we have each of the various different groups. The group I've known about doing this seminar for a while, so all the groups are aware that their projects will go on out to the world. And one of the things that I will do is I will open this site on up to all of you so that you can come in and work within it. Right now, it is still a little bit locked down. So this is where you can see where students came on in, they found their Google video, they uploaded it, they inserted it within here, and then you have the action as to what it is that they wanted to do, including the narration of the script working within that particular project. So this is one of my favorite projects from this particular batch of students. I'm going to try and test the bandwidth here with
Hi, can you turn up the volume a little bit? We're not really hearing it. Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and stop at this particular point. But again, you will be able to make sure that I have opened this up and given proper permissions for all of you to work within this. If you were able to hear the music, what I liked about this group is that they've chosen complete instrumental music, as well as the narration and the soundtrack was really phenomenal on this particular group. And we get a wide range of various different projects. Now, this is we consider a somewhat complex set of pages that we've constructed for this. To give you an idea of our original template that we've used in years past, you'll see that it was just a simple such as this. What we did in this particular page and within this template is that we have incorporated a Google Calendar so that the teacher could incorporate the calendar for the project with the various different due dates. Within each of the groups, you'll see that we had, and we use generic Group 1, Group 2, Group 3. What we have within the groups is a page type. I'm going to go up into the Create Page. In Google Sites, you can create a variety of different page types. You can create the basic web page, but this neat page is called the File Cabinet. What the File Cabinet enables you to do is create a page such as this, which do buttons across the top, so that if you want to upload a file to incorporate, simply click on the Add File, use where you want to upload it from, and I'm going to go ahead and choose the file, and I'm going to navigate to documents. So I'm going to go into my History Project folder. This is where on my local computer I keep all of my imagery. So we'll see that I've got some images here, and what I can do is I can now upload and click on Upload at this particular point in time. What this will now give me the ability to do is access this in this particular group. So each group is allowed to work within here. The other aspect of this page that we really like is the ability to organize, so we can, if they're beginning to capture and collect a lot of picture files or sound clips, they can organize that. But the thing that we have the students do when we sit down and do instruction with them is that we click on have them click on the Subscribe to Changes button, which then gives them a notification when one of their teammates has updated and uploaded the files that they've used. So it's a nice way for them to know what progress is being made by their various different teammates. And again, if we wanted to create a new page for file cabinet for group 6, and again, excuse my typing here, we can go ahead, we're going to put it in under the top level. We create the page. It then will create a link here on the side so that we can build this. So if you're interested in doing something pretty quick and easy just for the online storage, you do have that capability of just simply create a file cabinet page, open it on up, and then providing students access to that. So I'm going to go ahead and close that example there. And again, one of the things, just to kind of review the various different aspects. Within Google Docs, we do have the ability to upload. And now with Google Docs, you have the ability to upload up to 1 gigabyte worth of memory. So I can click files to upload. I can upload a number of files, so I can upload all of my images here. Bottom, it gives me the ability to convert them if I wish. If I want to keep them in the native, these are all JPEGs. I don't want them to try to attempt to convert them into spreadsheets or drawings. I would uncheck that, and then I would click on the upload. And so now it's going through and it's uploading those 10 images. So the student would be able to go in the images, upload the images into their shared storage. And again, with that, they have up to 1 gigabyte worth of storage within that particular project. Once all the imagery is uploaded, with Google Docs, you do have the ability to create collections for organization. So I can create a new collection and move all of those pictures on in. Additionally, what I have the ability to do is highlight, and we'll see on the right-hand side when I'm into the doc, the actions. I have the ability to do within my actions is have the ability to share this. So once I've uploaded it into my account, what I do is I can upload it into my partner's account, give them the ability to either edit that particular document or just to view it, simply clicking on share, and you can have it so that it sends an email or not, and I'm going to turn that off. So I'll share this with my partner without an email being generated. So now my partner does have the ability to utilize this. Again, this was not the original intent, but this was a change that occurred from the last project and when I picked the idea, and it's actually the way that our students are beginning to utilize this more significantly. Now, one of the other things that we talked about is the use of storyboards, and what I've done here is I've gone in and actually I'm going to go back into Google Docs and we'll get
there? It's lost Vinnie for a second. Please hold on the line and we'll try to reconnect. Thank you. Hi, it looks like Vinnie's dialing back in now, so we should be up and running in about a minute. So thank you for holding, and please excuse the technical difficulty with WebEx.
All right. I think I'm back.
Yeah, great. We can hear you now.
I'm sorry about that. I had an internet hiccup on my end.
Is it all?
So if you'll give me back the control.
Yep.
And again, I apologize for all of the attendees. So if you'll just bear with me, we're really at the end. So we'll go back on into. So one of the things that was where I was is we were talking about the use of Google Docs. And previously you saw the fact that we were uploading our images. What was going to the next is one of the project components is the fact that we have students create a storyboard. The aspects within the storyboard that you can go in to create a template. So you can take a look at the templates, and there are a significant number of templates so that you don't have to reconstruct things yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for storyboard, and it will do is it will show a couple different examples in terms of where you can work in various different storyboards that others have created for various different projects. And so if you want to take and preview the template, and you can find the one that works best for you. So you can see that originally the one that we had used is this storyboard template, which I'll just click on preview here, which gives little drawings and little boxes for drawings. Now with the addition of the ability to use drawings and drawing type pages, you can go ahead and utilize those as well. So here's an example of the storyboard template that we had used in earlier incarnations of the project. And again, the collaborative nature of the docs is that students share these on out with each other. The other way that students actually gravitated towards and we allowed was the use of Google presentations. So therefore what they would do is they would collect their images, they would begin to put their images in as individual slides, and then much like index cards, they begin to reorder them. And the thing about this is if students were home and in the 2-team or 3-person team, they could be all working on this slide deck and storyboard at the same time. So that therefore it was not one person who was doing the work, one person who was adding the various different aspects and elements. And much different than the doc, it gave them the ability to have collaboration that we wanted to look for in this particular project. As take a look, and I'm just going to go ahead and close a couple of the windows that we no longer use. The other aspects of Google Apps for Ed is the ability to create and upload video into your school. And again, there is a limit in terms of the amount of video storage that you have at your school. I'm wanting to say, and Becky, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's 10 gigabytes worth of storage for videos. And as an administrator, the administrator is the person who allows those who can upload videos. And for the brief window of this particular project, we added all of the students the ability to upload their own videos into this, and then a couple of days past the due date, we turned that ability off so that they needed to get help if they were negligent in missing a deadline within there. So we can go through there. We used Aviary, and again, Aviary is one of the marketplace apps that you can add to your Google Apps for Education. Those of you who have not used it, it allows you to have audio editing in a web browser. And when you're done working with this, you come into your set of Google Documents, you'll see a collection which is called Aviary files, and so that students, once they have begun to create their audio track, again, in the same way that they can share out their Google Docs, they can share their audio project, so multiple students have access to begin to come in and edit the project. What's nice about this is that you have the ability to import audio into this particular project, and as well as with microphones, students can record audio and then control their gain as well as their fades and such. It allows you to browse into your music library. And one of the things we do like about Aviary is that it does allow you to bring in your AC music, which is your iTunes music for your Mac users. So you can bring in waves and MP3s and window media audio. So you can bring in a variety of different music choices. And to get rid of this, I added a video clip so that not to take time. Once added the video clip, they can simply drag it into their project window and then use the select tool and edit the audio in the same way that they would edit their video. So they can move this into different tracks, they can move the start and end, save their project, and once they're done doing the project, they can then share it on out to their teammate so that the teammate can begin to do some tweaking, adding their narration tracks on in. And all of this can occur while students are away from campus. It no longer required the students to be on campus, work at a single computer to go ahead and work within there. I'm just going to go ahead and leave this particular project at this particular point. These are the various different components and ways that we've used to construct and work within this. I do want to show one other site which I don't want you to be scared at, and we will incorporate and include the links in the presentation. This is a project that we did last year with our middle school students. This is for Environmental Sustainability Week, and which we call Theme Week, where all normal classes are suspended for the most part. So this gives an explanation of the project. This had to design spaces and sustainable pictures for a variety of different locations, and they were assigned a location. Each had their own unique geographical challenge. We'll see that we've incorporated the Google Docs for the teachers who are working within the project, which is all of our middle school teachers. We used Google spreadsheets to create our schedule so that therefore teachers were able to see what classes, letters are the class block designations. So you'll see that F block was able to meet on Monday, C block was able to meet on Monday, and then again on Friday. And when the field trips, the project work where it was going to occur for each of the individual groups. As we gave the teachers the ability to see who was in what group so that they could always refer to that if they were looking for a specific student. This particular project, again, we did the reverse instruction, or flip the classroom, in that the research and collaboration was done at home. All of our students, for the most part, have access to computers and the internet. And unlike mine tonight, it typically works pretty reliably. And so what we did is we created a series of 10 Google Docs and apps. So we'll take a look at one as an example for one project. A series of different docs and maps that they were asked to create, as well as some other page types. And hopefully I've not lost my connectivity again, which would be a little bit of a bummer.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks. Getting a little worried there. So, but not sure why this is taking a while to load back up. But we're really big with the custom search engines. We also created a custom search engine to help them target and focus their research. So students had access to each of these different docs. Teacher was able to come in, and instead of opening up 10 different docs, we constructed this template for the teacher to point to each of this group's docs so that they had their map, had the background, they could see the summary of the space, they could see where they were in the translation of the summary of space. This was not used, we did not use the translate feature of Google Docs. We actually had to work with their language teachers, either French or Spanish, to go ahead and work through the correct translation within there. So they had some speakers, some field trips, and they were able to collect the reflections typically at home as opposed to in school working within this. It also gave them the ability to create their bibliography together collaboratively, and we also incorporated other page types. We incorporated a discussion page so that therefore the students wanted to discuss, they could come in and click on a new post. The majority of students did not utilize this feature for this particular project. We also gave them a file cabinet page so that if they were creating other file types that they could. The last one that we created for them was a to-do page. And what this enabled them to do is to create a new item. So as they were beginning to assemble and collect all of their materials, they could assign ownership to that particular item. So whether it's getting the poster board or being felt, or bring in a variety of furniture, And the one of the things that we had within this particular project is that it was during Earth Week last year. Students were required to build a diorama, but wanted them to recycle, reuse as many materials as they could. So they had a $10 limit that they were required to keep within. So they were only able to go out and purchase $10 worth of materials. So they were bringing in Legos, and they were bringing in old Fisher-Price dollhouse furniture to use for their diorama. And this was a way that they could assign and then check off when they were complete within that to-do list. So again, Google Sites does give you a great way of doing a lot of project management within a project. Again, we've seen it in through this environmental sustainability as well as the digital storytelling. So I just wanted to kind of give you another aspect within that. So I'm finished with my presentation. I'm sure that there are questions, and Becky, if you'll help me feed the questions.
For sure. Thanks again. This was super informative. I have a list of questions that people already asked in the Q&A window. And if you have any more questions, please put them into the Q&A window now. And in the next 7 minutes, we'll try to answer as many of them as we possibly can. Just to clarify on the storage limits for the various apps, so Vinnie, you were right, there is a 10 gigabyte limit per domain for video storage. But for site storage, it's 100 gigabytes per domain. So they have that extra storage space in sites.
Thanks.
So on questions now. Someone wants to know, is your website the site where all of your where your digital stories are held? Is that site viewable to the world? At
this moment it is not, but that's something that I will take care of between now and tomorrow so that it will be accessible.
Great. So sure that those are accessible. Another
Absolutely.
question. Does Photo Story work on Windows 7? Do you know?
It does work on Windows 7. It requires Windows XP and above. A free app, and it is by far, and I use both Macintosh and Windows computers, it is by far the easiest way to construct a project with still imagery and soundtrack. Significantly easier. This is the one case and the one thing that a PC, in my opinion, does significantly better than a Mac.
Awesome. Another great question is, are the Google Apps for Education more than Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets, and presentations? Are they a different set of programs?
What the Google for Education is a suite of different Google tools, and depending on what your school chooses to allow access to, it includes mail, it includes docs, spreadsheets, forms, presentations, video, contacts, sites, calendars, and now, as of last fall, it includes Blogger, Picasa, Google Custom Search, all of the same sets of tools that one used to have for a personal account, exception of YouTube. And that is the one thing which is not included in your Google Apps for Education site. So they're more than just the presentations and spreadsheets.
Great. The question is just, will we get something in our email regarding the link to this presentation? And yes, I will be sending out a link to the recorded webinar and the transcript of this Q&A session. And then another question is there a time limit for accessing these recordings and slides? No, the recording will be available on YouTube, so you can access it whenever you need to later. And another question is, let's see, do the students work on Photo Story and iMovie, etc., not online? Are those on-premise solutions?
Yeah, those are a per computer solution. So what we've done is, in terms of use of the Google tools, is a lot of that for pre-production. There does come a point in time that all the work does need to migrate at this point, because we've not found a good collaborative editing solution. Other than Aviary for the audio, the iMovie and or Photo Story is done on an individual computer. But that's the last steps. It's the assembly steps after they've gone through all of the other steps in the process using the collaborative tools.
In the last page you just showed, are the individual boxes gadgets?
The last page that I showed, they're actually not gadgets. They are when things, and again, I'm going to go up into the edit page. To edit the page, you'll see that this is a Google document. And so what we're simply doing is we're pointing to a Google Doc that we've created and shared and brought that on in. This is a Google map. So we can get to that and we can see when we do the insert menu about midway through that we have all of the various different Google tools, calendar, map, doc, Picasa photo, spreadsheet, within there. All you have links at the bottom to the various different pages. So we have the three different page types that Google Sites does support, which is a list, an announcements page, and a file cabinet page.
Great. These two questions are kind of related, so I'll ask them together. How old were these students that were working on these projects?
That's fine. The digital storytelling project site, which I shared, was our 11th grade students. So they're 16 and 17 years old. They're 11th grade students in the U.S. The middle school project that I shared at the tail end, those were 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. And each of the teams had one 6th grader, one 7th grader, and one 8th grader. So they range in age from 12 to 14.
And so the two projects that you showed were middle and high school.
That's correct.
Have you seen similar, types of projects for elementary school students, so for first and second grade, to get being used at that level?
I can see it being used at that level for elementary school students to some extent. We made a conscious decision. We begin our Google apps currently right now this academic year, beginning with our 6th graders. Our elementary school curriculum does a lot individual focus and individual task. And so they'll learn spreadsheets, they'll learn how to do digital pictures, they'll learn how to create movies, they'll learn to work audio, but those are all self-contained, discrete projects, and they're not brought together in the way that we do in our middle school and high school. A lot of that is so that they can have that foundation. The school wants to and begin to work with that. They can open that on up. We've consciously made the decision not to open it for elementary school students. Beginning next academic year, however, we will be opening up Google Apps for our 4th and 5th grade in a limited capacity, and that being in using docs only, so no email, no sites, etc. So they'll have access mid-year, January on, after our winter break, to work within the docs, spreadsheets, and presentations.
Ask just a couple more questions because we're right at 5:30, and I want to be conscious of your time. Yeah. So just quickly, I can answer this. Google Apps for Education is completely free. We don't charge for any of the apps. So all of the tools that you see here are free to use for your students, teachers, and staff. Another good question is, what other educational apps in the marketplace does your school use?
That's a great question. We've done some testing on the use of Glyphy, which now enables you to create mind maps with some limited success. We're looking at adding Haiku, which is a learning management system, into our system, and we're doing a small pilot of that. I'm currently a Moodle school, and we've connected our Moodle server and logins with our Google Apps logins, but we're always looking for new approaches to bring things on into a common space at this particular point. I think that that's all that we have open to everyone at this particular point. But we're constantly on the lookout. We're currently using NoodleBib, There's a bibliographic sourcing. EasyBib is the one which is in Marketplace, so we're also doing an evaluation show whether or not we want to make that switch.
Great. Last question. I think the rest of the questions we can make sure that we answer in the Q&A box, Q&A transcript rather. That will be that link will be sent out to everyone tomorrow. So if we didn't get to your question today, please don't worry. It will be answered in our Q&A transcript. So check that document tomorrow. But the last question is, what problems or obstacles did you have with the tool or the participant when you were doing this project? Is there anything that a district or a school who wants to do this should be cognizant of before they roll a project like this?
A large number of schools are doing digital storytelling projects as it is at some point. Many of our obstacles, which I talked about early on, and we can go back to that particular slide. So I will see if I can go ahead and find it. The obstacles that we had were to create spaces that students could collaborate in the group with. So we wanted to get away from one computer hogging the content creation. Recognize that at some point that is something that we have to do. We wanted to make sure that students had collaboration and also that we could track who's doing what and what students actually were responsible for as part of that collaboration. So in uploading the photos, they would tag who uploaded the photos. So it gave us a great sense in terms of that. So and also breaking down the barriers. With the switch to the Google storage, either via sites or now using docs or combinations thereof, it really expanded the amount of time that students could work on a project. Again, we're fortunate enough with our school that most of our students have access to a computer and broadband internet, so that therefore working on a project of this type at home, uploading picture files, sound files and things is not an issue. I do know and recognize that is an issue for some schools and areas of the country. So this construction and creation of these background and backside tools really opened up and eliminated most of the obstacles that we had.
Thanks again, Vinnie. It was a really excellent presentation. I know that I learned a lot, and I hope that all of our attendees learned and there won't be any fear in terms of starting a digital storytelling project at their own school. So once again, please check out, we'll send you an email with the link to the recorded webinar and the Q&A transcript. All of the webinars and transcripts are also available on our website at google.com/a/edu. So it's got the resource center there if for some reason the message doesn't get sent to your inbox. And we hope to see you in a couple of weeks for our next professional development webinar. So thanks again, Vinnie, and have a great night, everyone.